Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Know Before You Go, Sri Lanka Wildlife and Cultural Treasures, presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Ramani Jayawardena. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Over to you, Ramani.
Thank you, Rob. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm Ramani, an EL for Sri Lanka. I work for NatHab in Switzerland, Sri Lanka, and Borneo. I have been working, I have been growing up in nature from the time I'm a little child, and really enjoyed being out there, and it's my passion. So I guess that's why I love leading these trips. So now to get on to give you an idea where Sri Lanka is. Sri Lanka is a small island at the tip of India. It's about 25,000 square miles in size. It has been known by a number of names because it's been on an important trade route. So always lots of people were very interested in Sri Lanka. So from the Arab traders to the Chinese, then the Portuguese, the Dutch, and the British. So we've had a number of names by which Sri Lanka has been called, starting with Lanka, then Serendip, Ceylon, Taprobane, and today Sri Lanka. Like I said, it's a very small country. We have about 22 million people in our country, but despite the large population, we have a very high biodiversity. We have a very amazing topography. So starting from the sea levels, we go up to about 8,000 feet in the central hills. And we have two monsoons. So that we can really use our oceans right around the year. So during the southwest monsoon, our northeast monsoon, our northeastern coast can be used. And during the northeast monsoon, the southwestern shore can be used. So we are very fortunate in the sense that we can swim all year round. In addition, because of the topography and the climate, we have a lot of unique niches, and as a result, a lot of endemic creatures as well. Now to get to the itinerary. So we start at the airport when you arrive. It's a little north of Colombo. And then there's about a 40 to 45 minutes to the Horathapola estate. From there, we travel up north to Dambulla or Sigiriya, where we spend 2 nights. And sorry, we first start in Horathapola, where we spend 1 night. Then we go up to Viluyana, where we'll be spending 2 nights. Then we drive south to Kandy, where we just stop to see the Temple of the Tooth. And we carry on to Nuwara, which is at about 6,000 feet. And then we travel down through the plains all the way to the coast to Yala National Park, where we stay at Kulu Safaris. And then we drive down. At Kulu Safaris, we stay for 3 nights. And then we drive through Bundala National Park, where we stop briefly to see a lot of the migrant shorebirds and the wetland bird species. We also see monkeys here and elephants, monitor lizards, and lots of other birds. We then carry on along the coast to Moswal Villa, where we base ourselves, and we visit the Galle Fort, and then we carry on to Colombo. So that's just to give you an idea of the itinerary. And what's interesting with this itinerary is that we cover a lot of different habitats that we have in Sri Lanka. Just to give you an idea of the temperatures, in Colombo, we have a high of 80, late 80s, 90, and a low of in the 70s. Nuwara, which is up in the mountains at 6,000 feet, gets a little colder. with 67 degrees to 75 at the high end and going down to 51 at the low end. I haven't got Horton Plains here, but Horton Plains does get a little colder, especially in the mornings. It can go down to about 40 degrees, and the high would be the same as in Norelia. In Yala, it is pretty hot there, so we have a high of 86 and it goes down to about 73. But at this time of year, we think the weather is a little chilly in the mornings and in the evenings. Then along the coast, it's pretty much the same. Being an island and a small island, the temperature is fairly equal most of the year round. So starting at our first stop, which is Kandanagedara or Horathapola, it is at a coconut estate, which is an organic estate, and we stay in a lovely old colonial bungalow with 8 rooms there. And since it's not built as a hotel, each of the rooms are different, but all are very beautiful. So here we are able to experience the story, the history about coconuts, the uses of coconuts. And in addition, there are things like pepper growing here. This is just to show you the area around. So you have lots of paddy fields and coconut estates as far as the eye can see. Then this is the house, the colonial house. It's about 150 years old with a beautiful garden around with many, many birds. So you can have a cup of tea and sit by the pool and observe over 30 species of birds of an afternoon. In addition, we have pepper growing here and lots of the tropical fruits. Here we have one of the guests on a previous trip tasting a young coconut. It's known as kurumba in Sinhalese, and it's really delicious, and it has the perfect balance of sodium and potassium ions, so it's a great hydrating drink. Our next stop is Sigiriya. Sigiriya you may have heard of as a Lion's Rock. Sigiriya was basically, it's an inselberg or a hardened magma plug from a extinct volcano, and it has got worn around. So you have this huge 600-foot high rock standing in the middle of a plain, standing high above the plain. And there are about 1,200 steps to climb to get to the top. And it has a lot of caves, and these caves have been used from about the 3rd century BC by forest-dwelling monks. And later on in the 5th century AD, it was taken over by a king who made his royal city there and made these amazing gardens. So you have what they call a water garden, a boulder garden, and a terrace garden. So for anyone who is not able to climb to the top, we are able to spend time around the base of the rock because of the beautiful garden there, and there are lots of monkeys and lizards and birds that we can observe. This is Viluyana, where we will stay while we are in Sigiriya. We spend 2 nights here. This is also quite an amazing story. It is an abandoned paddy field that was converted into this hotel about in 2006. And now there's this thriving wetland reserve here. And it has brought back many of the animals that are found in a wetland. So you have crocodiles, you have monitor lizards, you have lots of birds, amphibians. And what's most special here is that the loris has come back here. And the loris is the most primate of the primitive primate. And it is a little animal that crawls along the branches, and they're nocturnal. So we go out in the night with our red lights to spot them. This is a little bit of the cottages we stay in. They're all found in the paddy fields, all separate cottages. Each one is an individual room. The only problem with these cottages is it's all at different levels, so you have to be a little cautious when walking around your room, especially going to the bathroom, but everything is well lit, so it's not such a big problem. And then you have these plunge pools, which are great, especially in the heat of the day, just to wallow in it and cool yourself down. These are the walkways to each of the cottages, and there's lots of wildlife that you spot. This is a peacock on the pathway. Sometimes we see otters, sometimes civet cats, especially in the evening as we walk back to our cottage. So it's a beautiful location. We also see these giant tree squirrels, and this one is quite habituated. We also see them in Yala, and we have a few of almost a family there that has got habituated, and they come every day for a banana in the mornings. This is the loris I was talking about. So it is this strange ET-like looking creature with these small ears, these long fingers, and they are solitary animals. Only when they're with their young do you find the babies clinging onto them. The rest of the time they will be on their own. This is the Sigiriya rock that I mentioned before. This is towering over the plains. And what you see on that orange wall is what they call a mirror wall. It is quite a spectacular place, and the view right from the top is just amazing. These are the gardens below the rock. So you have these beautiful boulder gardens where you can walk around and, like I said, observe birds, monitor lizards, small garden lizards, and the monkeys. This is one of the caves that are found. There are many caves that are found around this rock, and these were used, like I said, in the 3rd century by the monks, and they built them up with these bricks. So this is a remnant of one of these homes or caves of a monk. We call them a kuti in Sinhalese. Here everyone's busy taking photographs of the monkeys in the trees. Then also out of Viluyana, we do a day's excursion where we go to a place called Polonnaruwa. It was one of the ancient capitals from around the 11th to the 13th century AD. And we get an opportunity to walk through this archaeological site, observing this troop of talk macaque monkeys. They're endemic monkeys, and they have a very important social hierarchy among them, very interesting. And so you can learn a lot about it when you walk through the archaeological site with these 2 researchers who will take you on the walk. And this was started by a German scientist called Wolfgang Ditters about 30 years ago. It is one of the longest standing primate studies in the world. And many films have been filmed on these monkeys. Should we have time, we can watch one of them in Yala called The Monkey Kingdom, which was done by Disney Nature about 6 years ago in Sri Lanka. So this is one of the female talk macaques. The females have this pink face, pink to red color face, and with its little one. These are another species of monkeys we also find there. They're called the silver langur monkeys or the gray langur monkeys. They're much bigger than the talk macaques, but they're believed to be not as intelligent as the talk macaques. And these are mainly leaf-eating monkeys. We also go on to see one of the most amazing sculptures. There are 3 sculptures. This is just one of them. There's a seated Buddha statue, there's a standing Buddha statue, and this recumbent Buddha statue, all carved in one large slab of rock. And you can see how beautifully it has been carved. You can see all the material that the Buddha is wearing, his robes. You can see it going across his body, the fingers, the cushion is indented with the weight of his head. They are quite amazing sculptures. This is about 40 feet long, and it's an amazing sight. While we are here, we also go to look for these elephants, because here the elephants, you find them in herds, unlike in Yala, they're generally more the males or very small herds. Here, sometimes we are able to see larger herds. And what is interesting in being able to observe a larger herd is that you can observe the behavior patterns of all the elephants in the group. It's a matriarchal society with the young males staying with them till they are in their teens, and then they wander off to form bachelor units. And it's lovely watching the babies trying to join with the teenage brothers and play, and then they suddenly realize that mom's gone off, and their ears flapping, trunk in the air, they scream, and the mature moms don't bother about them, but a sister might come to their assistance and coax them and make them feel comfortable again. So it's a lovely place to watch this kind of behavior. Sometimes we also see these elephants. This is a male. Most often, if you see an elephant alone, they're the lone males, and they wander along the roadsides. And here we have these cattle egrets also following them, picking up the insects that are being churned as they walk along the road. So our next stop is Kandy. We stopped there for lunch. The main reason that we stopped there is to visit the Temple of the Tooth. The Temple of the Tooth is where Lord Buddha's tooth is said to be kept. It was brought to Sri Lanka around the 1st century AD, and it was kept in the old cities of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, and then as our ancient cities moved down south because of the incursions of the Tamils from South India, it finally came to rest in Kandy and in the Temple of the Tooth in Kandy. And the tooth relic is important because wherever the tooth relic was, the person who was a caretaker was the king. Quite similar to the Shroud of Turin and the Dukes of Italy, whoever had the Shroud of Turin was able to be the king of Italy. So it's quite similar. Then this is the Temple of the Tooth, and the tooth relic is kept in this hexagonal building. Towards the left, which we don't see quite well, was the ancient palace of the king. And this is what it looks like inside. You have all these statues, and you have lots of people coming here to worship and make offerings on a daily basis. Our next stop is Nuwara Eliya. We travel up into the mountains to about 6,000 feet. And all these journeys that we take are about 3 to 4 hours in length, with lots of P and T stops, that what I call P and T stops, so that you should be drinking and not worry, because we always make a stop. So this is our next drive up to Nuwara Eliya. And this is where we stay in Nuwara Eliya. It's a beautiful house. We use the whole house is for us. We don't have any outside guests here. So it's nice. There's a beautiful living room where we can sit and enjoy a cup of tea. And there's a Lake Gregory right in front. And we base ourselves here for 2 nights. And we travel up to Horton Plains, which is a plateau. It's a grassland with this amazing montane cloud forest. And these are one of the endemic tree ferns growing there. These are the plains. And out of the plains here rise 2 of our highest mountains, rise from these plains. So that's Totupola Kanda and Kirigal Potta. And you have these grasslands, and on the edge of it, you have all the forests growing. and also an endemic species of rhododendron grows here. Here are some of our guests looking for the endemic birds that we see up here. We also look for 3 types of endemic lizards that are found up here. This is the pygmy lizard, and we have 2 others that we also go in search of. This is the views and what the area in Horton Plains looks like when you walk to the edge of the plains. You have all the mountains around. Again, rows and rows of mountains. And then we have the opportunity of seeing how tea is made and how much work goes into the making of a cup of tea that we drink. It seems so easy to go out to a shop and buy tea bags or tea leaves and make your cup of tea, but you'll be able to experience how much work and effort goes into that cup of tea. So you will start with experiencing the picking of the tea, the 2 leaves and a bud, and you will realize how long it takes to get that basket full. From there, we go down the plains to Yala, which is a national park, where we'll be spending 3 nights in these tented camps. There are 6 tents, and again, this whole campsite will be taken by us. So we'll be the only guests here. It's in a lovely setting with a beautiful lake in front. And if we do have time between our safaris, which we do twice a day, one early morning and one in the afternoon, there's an opportunity to go kayaking. Meals are generally served a la fresco, but if it is too hot or it's raining, then the meals will be served in the dining room. We travel around the park in these Land Cruisers. They're very comfortable vehicles, and the seats are at different levels. But of course, some seats are more comfortable than others, so we have to rotate the seats. So we spend about 3 hours on each drive in these jeeps looking for the animals. So here again, we are lucky to see elephants, buffaloes, and of course the elusive leopard. Yala is supposed to have the highest density of leopards, but saying that, they are not very easy to spot. It's quite challenging tracking them. We also, we also have these beautiful rivers that flow through the parks. And on either side of the rivers, you have these beautiful, majestic trees with these amazing root systems called the kumbuk trees, or Arjuna terminalia. And here's a good place to spot kingfishers, the fish eagles, and sometimes even the fish owls. And they're really a beautiful place. It's nice and cool, and it's lovely to spend some time close to these rivers. Sorry. Again, I just want to make it clear that wildlife viewing in Africa and Asia is a very different experience. In Africa, in most places, there are these open savanna lands, and they have very little water. So you can sit at a water hole and you're able to see these animals come there. And your vista is so vast that you can watch animals from a distance. But here in Asia, in India, in Nepal, in Sri Lanka, and even in Borneo, the forest is very thick. So you have to really look for these animals. And you cannot be guaranteed to see them on every drive and on every day. So here we have to all put our eyes at work and really look for these animals. And sometimes we are driving along, and just by the side of the vehicle there might be this elephant, but there's a chance, although it's so big, that we miss it because they're so quiet, and they will be feeding away silently. and we will not even see them, but they are really majestic animals. And an interesting fact is that not all our male elephants, like in Africa, have tusks. It's only a very few of them that have tusks. And even more interesting is how these huge animals can just vanish into the thicket, and you will not even hear them going into the thick forest. We also have these very colorful storks. They're called the painted storks. Here we have a whole flock of them in a feeding frenzy. They move their foot around and they make the soil, churn up the soil so that mollusks and fish come out and they can catch them. They're really beautiful birds and lovely to watch. Here we also have a whole flock, but here of different birds. There are egrets and painted storks, and sometimes we have spoonbills amongst them, and black-headed ibis as well. And this is where we stop on our way to our next place, which is down south, where we stay by the beach. We make a small stop here in Boondala. It's a small national park by the coast. And sometimes when you sit on the edge where we have breakfast, you can see turtles out in the ocean. What's very interesting is it is a Ramsar site. It's a protected wetland. And you have a lot of migrant shorebirds coming here to spend the winter. And also you can observe a lot of the wetland birds. We also sometimes see elephants here and monkeys and sometimes jackals, spotted deer. So it's also a lovely stop. And we have a picnic breakfast out here. We then carry on along the coast and come to a place where we go and observe how cinnamon is, the whole process of cinnamon. Cinnamon now is a very important plant in Sri Lanka, not so much now, but it is again gaining importance. But in the past, all the traders from the Arabs in the 7th century to the Chinese and much later the Portuguese, the Dutch and the British, they came to these lands, to Asia and Southeast Asia, looking for these spices. And the cinnamon in Ceylon is very special and it's endemic. It's different to the cinnamon that you find in your grocery stores. That's a type of cassia, but the true cinnamon is what comes from Sri Lanka. And you have this special caste of people who know exactly how to peel the cinnamon and how to make these amazing quills, and then they make bundles of it for export. And we have this guy Rupert, who is an English gentleman who owns the estate, and he takes us on a tour of his cinnamon plantation. We also have lunch at his beautiful home right on top of the hill with an amazing view of the harbor. And after lunch, we go out to see how cinnamon oil is made, which is also a fascinating process. So that's where we are based in Ahangama for 2 nights. When we arrive in Ahangama, that's the first time I think we have an afternoon off for you to do whatever you like. It's a quiet afternoon, so you can go swimming. There's a beautiful pool here and a lovely bay that those who like to swim in the sea can swim or in the pool. And the following day, sorry, this is a picture of the rooms. They're very comfortable rooms, but here we'll have to share the hotel with other guests because there are more rooms than what we can occupy. And the next day we go out early in the morning in boats like this, looking for the largest mammal on earth, the blue whale. And we also see turtles swimming. We see flying fish and different types of dolphins. Here you have one of the whales diving down. And here are the flukes of a whale. And here we have a pod of bottlenose dolphins. Last year, we were lucky to see a big whale shark, which was quite a lovely sight as well. We then traveled to the Gaul fort. It is an ancient fort starting from, again, from the time of the Arab traders to the Chinese traders. They all came here. It's a protected harbor. And the Portuguese were the first to build a fort. It was a very small fort. But what we visit today is mainly the remnants of the Dutch fort, which is one of the best preserved Dutch forts in the world. The British also made a few changes to this fort, but they really moved to Colombo and they built their fort in Colombo. So this is still a living fort where you have people living. There are lots of businesses. Today there are lots of restaurants and little guest houses where people live. So we do a walk around here, a tour of the fort, and this is the one and only place where you get some retail therapy. We also have a lovely dinner here and we travel back to our hotel for the night. These are some pictures of the fort, the lighthouse, the mosque, and some of the houses and people walking on the rampart. And then we finally drive down to Colombo, where you will depart. We stay at the Taj Hotel in Colombo, which is by the Gaul Face Green, which is a beautiful view of the ocean. And we have lunch here at the Gallery Cafe, which is a very interesting building. It was the office of one of our famous architects, Geoffrey Bawa. He is a person who was able to, after the British, who built very closed houses, not really suitable for our climates, unlike the Dutch. He incorporated both the local architecture and the Western architecture to bring about these central courtyards, either filled with water or plants, and these verandas, and the rooms were came out on the side of the verandas. So it was much cooler to live in houses like this. He also used the vernacular material of these clay tiles, clay roofing tiles, which were made the home nice and cool. So this is a place where we have our farewell lunch before everyone flies out. This is a gallery cafe of an evening when it's all lit up with candles. Now to go to the logistics of our trip. We travel around most of our trip in these buses. They are nice, comfortable buses with about 25 seats. So everybody has 2 seats to themselves and a window. We also travel in the boats, like you saw when we go whale watching. Down below here are the jeeps that we will use when we are in Sigiriya to go and watch elephants. They have open tops and you can stand or sit in it. And then in Yala, we have to have these closed top vehicles because those are the regulations in the park in Yala. So these are the different transport we'll use. Then what to wear is always a question. So Sri Lanka is, as you know, about 5 to 10 degrees north of the equator. It's a tropical country with a very high humidity and the temperatures in most places around 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So we recommend that you wear long sleeve shirts just to protect you from the sun. But when we are up in Nuwara and we go to Horton Plains, the temperatures can drop to 40, so you need a fleece, something a little warm till the sun comes out. Being a tropical country, we have thunderstorms and rain showers at any given time, so we need to carry a raincoat a lot of the time. There's a lot of dust, especially in the wildlife parks, so we need a buff. Hats, sunglasses, sunscreen, water, and shoes. The only place where we need closed shoes really is when we walk in Horton Plains and in Norelia when we go to the tea plantations. The rest of the time we can walk around in sandals, but it will be good to have the toes covered, because when we are walking, we are looking up and observing different things and we forget about our toes. So to prevent our toes from getting stubbed, it's good to have the toes covered. Then gear, the binoculars is the most important bit of gear, because with a pair of binoculars, you're able to see the birds and the details of birds. And a lot of people who were not interested in birds before became interested in birds after I've asked them to look at the birds through the binoculars. The camera, of course, for those who like to take pictures and who are into photography, you bring your camera, but you need to have a bag that you can put it in when it is dusty. You need your chargers. The phone is a great way of getting pictures. Your cards, memory cards, and an adapter is always useful. Most places have internet and Wi-Fi. In Yala, that's at the national park, Wi-Fi is limited to the dining areas. The voltage that we use, or the electricity, is 220 volts. So that's the type of connection you need to have. Then your visa, if you have not already applied for your visa, you apply for it online. It's called the ETA. And when you're applying for your visa, it's always good to have your passport handy. It should be valid for 6 months. You should have your flight information into Colombo, the date of arrival, a credit card for payment, the address in Sri Lanka. This is the information that will be required of you when you're filling your form online for your visa. So I've listed all the things that you should be having when you are applying for your visa. And I would suggest you apply it 10 days to 2 weeks prior, because it can take 3 to 5 working days to get it back. And this is the website for your visa. Then money, you really don't need money unless for personal spending, such as souvenirs, food, and beverages not included in your trip. All other meals and soft beverages are covered. By beverages, on the first one I mean is alcoholic beverages. On the first day of our trip and on our last day, the alcoholic beverages are paid by us, but any other time you need to pay for it. The tips of all the drivers and the local guides are paid already. And if there's any other gratuities, you want to bring an envelope so that you can present it discreetly. And the tips that you have to pay are mentioned in your pre-departure booklet. And thank you. Thank you all for being here and listening. And I hope I've been able to enlighten you on our Sri Lanka trip.
All right, thank you so much, Ramani. All right, now, before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via the question field in your control panel. Okay, let's get to some questions. So is it best to have your visa before booking your flight?
Yes, no, you have to get your visa after you book your flight, because you need the information, your flight information for your visa.
Gotcha. Thank you for clarifying that. So, is it a good idea for us to bring walking sticks?
Yes, I would bring walking sticks, because especially in Horton Plains, if you do decide to walk, it will be good to have them, because the pathways here although their pathways are not walking paths like we have in Europe, where they are really made even. They are very uneven paths. They are washed because we've had a lot of rain, so they're eroded. So it's very uneven. So it's always good to have sticks to walk along those paths. And they can be folded so it can be kept in your bag and used when necessary. Though we do carry some sticks ourselves. So should anyone need them, we would have some with us.
Great, that's great to know. Thank you so much. So how many people are generally on each trip?
Generally about 10 people per trip.
10 people, perfect. Thank you so
We
much.
have the expedition leader and a local guide.
Great. So do we know in general how animals reached this island?
Well, before about 10,000 years ago, Sri Lanka was attached to India, and it was then that the animals moved across from the mainland to Sri Lanka, and when it separated, they got isolated here. So a lot of the species we have, even the elephant, is a subspecies of the mainland elephant species, and so is the leopard and many others. And in addition, we have a lot of endemics because they've got isolated in all these niches and now are only found in Sri Lanka.
Are there any chances that we would see a sloth bear?
Sloth bears are very shy. The best time to see them is during July and August when a certain fruit is found. But we have had occasions where we've had a sloth bear just crossing our path or breaking a termite mound if it has had some rain and the termite mound is soft enough. We've had those chances as well. So I wouldn't just cross it off as impossible, but it's rare.
What about crocodiles? Would we see them, and can they be a problem for us?
We will see crocodiles, but they're not a problem to us. Even when we go kayaking, we have crocodiles in that tank, and they are not a problem. They are mainly fish eaters, and there's plenty of fish for them to eat, so they really don't go after humans unless really necessary.
Great. Thank you for letting us know that. What about whales? Are they present all year round, or is there a better time of year to see them?
Well, blue whales are present all year round. First, initially the theory was they were migrating like blue whales in the rest of the world. But now they have found that we have a resident population of blue whales in Sri Lanka. And that's probably because of, and we are able to see them because of the continental shelf coming really close into Sri Lanka at 2 points. One is in Mirissa, where we go out to see them, and the other place is in Trincomalee. And we have 108 rivers. And so all these runoff from the rivers is nutrients for all the plankton, which the whales feed on. So that's why these whales stay around and they're a resident population.
Great, thank you so much. So, with all that water, are mosquitoes an issue? Is there something I should bring specifically to combat the mosquitoes?
Well, mosquitoes can be an issue, but I travel around a lot and I haven't come across it as being a problem, but then they may not like my blood. But carrying mosquito repellent is always a good idea. And in the evenings, wearing a long sleeve shirt and long pants is a good idea.
Great, thank you for addressing that. So let's talk about drinking the water. Is that something I can do, or should we drink bottled water?
Yes, you should drink bottled water, not out of the tap. And all places that we use have bottled water because we try to be plastic free, and all the hotels that we use are plastic free. So you'll have glass bottles in each room. And if that water is not enough, I always suggest that you bring your bottles to the restaurant and you can have it filled up there as well.
Great, thank you so much. Now, you showed us a picture of a stone Buddha, and all the women seem to be dressed in similar white outfits. Is that a particular choice? Is there a reason for that?
Those are all school children there, and that's what they wear when they go to Sunday school. So that would have been an outing with a Sunday school, and all the young girls wear the cloth and the little top, and the boys would wear a sarong, what we call a sarong, which is again a long cloth like the girls, and a long white shirt with long sleeves, which is our national dress as well.
Thank you for addressing that. So will we visit temples or sacred sites, and should we consider how we dress when we do that?
Yes, we do. When we visit the Temple of the Tooth and when we visit those statues on those days, we will inform you that you should dress where your arms are covered. They don't want you to expose your arms, and you generally have to wear a skirt or something that covers your legs if you are wearing shorts, but trousers are okay.
So if I do bring money for tipping or for buying things, should I exchange that currency, or are US dollars okay?
If you are going to buy things, I would change it at the airport, or we do come across ATMs, and if you let your expedition leader know, they can stop at an ATM and you can change your money or get the rupees out. Otherwise, you change the money at the airport, and other gratuities you can pay with dollars.
Thank you. So are we going to be able to sample some of the local cuisine? And is there anything in particular that you think we should try?
Well, I think Sri Lankan food is really delicious, and the reason is that it is a mixture of so many different cultures. So we have this really delicious stuff, from hoppers to string hoppers to rice, things that you probably have never heard of. And they have got the influence of the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Arabs, the Malays, the Chinese. So it is an interesting mix of food we have.
So if I am shopping, can I use a credit card?
Yes, in most places you can use a credit card. It's only in these small, tiny shops that we call boutiques, they will not accept a credit card.
Great, thank you. So when staying in those tents, are we going to have electricity access? Or do we need
Yes,
power?
yeah, those tents have electricity, they're solar powered, and there's a generator that runs air conditioners in all of the tents, which is nice because when you come back from safari, it's the hottest part of the day. So you can go in and have a good rest before the next safari in some cool, in the coolness of your tent.
So what is the best time for me to come visit?
Well, this is the best time of year because this is the coolest time of our year, starting from December till about February, March. Beginning of April is a nice time to visit.
Thank you so much. Well, unfortunately, that's going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for any closing comments you may have.
Well, I think I've told you everything that I had in mind, but I'd like to say a big thank you to everybody who was here to listen. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you, if not this year, but next year in Sri Lanka, so that we can show and share our beautiful country with you.
Ramani, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I'd also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, give us a call at the number on your screen, or you can send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.